I let the team down. I think I want to leave the team.
Well, we've collated the information that we collected before, after and during the race, and we believe we understand why performance levels decreased.
We've researched anxiety, stress and arousal, and some theories that explain these. We believe that we can implement some strategies to ensure that your performance will not be affected by these again.
Arousal may be defined as the physiological or psychological state of being awake or reactive to stimuli. Anxiety may be defined as a negative emotional state that provokes feelings of worry and nervousness.
In the case study, Paula showed fluctuating levels of arousal and anxiety. She had heightened anxiety levels prior to the race beginning, which provoked the autonomic nervous system to produce physiological responses such as increased heart rate, dry mouth, and limbs feeling hot and sweaty but cold to touch. All of these symptoms were evident in Paula before she started the race. Her arousal levels heightened just before and during the first 3 minutes of the race and then after the race, where she showed inability to concentrate, muscle soreness and decreased coordination. She also felt very upset and drained after the race due to this high level of stress.
State anxiety refers to the perceived threat and feelings of nervousness, worry and apprehension produced from a given situation. For Paula, this would be the race and pressure of doing well for her teammates that produce these feelings of worry and nervousness. Trait anxiety refers to a stressor that is a characteristic of an individual. This varies between individuals given their personality traits and condition response to these stresses.
Before we bring in Paula, I've collated the data that we collected and have wanted to talk to you about the results. It has to do with the HPA axis. This axis is designed to explain the relationship between the hypothalamus, pituitary gland and the adrenal gland. It is one of the major systems involved in the stress response, with cortisol being released when stress levels begin to increase. It has been studied and proven that this release of cortisol can have effects on heart rate variability, which shows an increase in sympathetic activity.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It's to do with stress. We took cortisol levels through the saliva and monitored their alpha activity because the different hemispheres react to different stimuli. With the left focusing on positive stimuli and emotions and the right focusing on negative emotions and behaviours.
That's right, and I've done some tests and these are the results. The results suggest that there is a strong positive correlation between cortisol and heart rate variability, suggesting that as Paula's cortisol levels increase, as does her heart rate variability, which is an indication of stress.
I see there is also a strong correlation between cortisol and prefrontal cortex on the right, which suggests Paula is having negative thoughts when cortisol levels are high.
That's right, and that there was a correlation, but only a moderate negative correlation between cortisol and prefrontal cortex on the left, which suggests that as cortisol levels decrease, Paula was having more positive thoughts and emotions, and her performance levels increased at that point. Paula, I think your performance was perfectly explained by the virtue hypothesis that Joe explained to me yesterday.
As I told Ned yesterday, that's the graph that shows at both low and high arousal levels, performance is hindered, but when it is at moderate levels, performance is at its peak.
We have data that shows that you are most anxious and aroused during the first 3 to 4 minutes of the race, with the levels decreasing after that.
Well, that makes sense. I felt like I performed at my peak during the last 3 minutes of the race.
There's another theory that I read about, which is called the zone optimal functioning theory, which discusses individuals having a different anxiety levels for optimal performance.
I remember that one. It says if you, me and Paula were all put in anxious situations, our performances would be affected differently, depending on our optimal zone.
So you're saying that for me to perform at my peak, I need to have a low level of anxiety. How can I do this?
Just having a knowledge of your optimal zone will help you in the long run, but also focusing on the task at hand, as you did for the last 3 minutes of the race, seemed effective in maximising your performance.
The drive theory suggests why you have an increase in performance in the last 3 minutes of the race. It states that skilled individuals who are being viewed by an audience will have an increased arousal or drive.
During the first 3 minutes of the race, you had an increased anxiety levels, which was shown by the increased cortisol levels in your saliva. This rise in anxiety may have been inhibiting you from your peak performance. Once the levels had decreased, your increased drive enhanced your performance.
How about you tell me more about the multidimensional anxiety theory?
This theory contains two elements, cognitive anxiety and somatic anxiety, and how these affect performance through physiological and psychological responses. Did you have any negative thoughts before starting the race, or feel any changes in your body?
Yes, I felt quite nervous and under pressure to perform well because it was Jill's last race, and I wasn't really able to concentrate very well before I started.
We believe this might have had a negative effect on your performance.
Another theory developed from the multi-dimensional theory is the catastrophe theory, which could help explain why you had such a sudden drop in performance and then a later burst in energy.
This model proposes that there is a cusp on the inverted U where a slight increase in arousal causes a dramatic drop in performance, explaining when you missed your stroke in the second minute of the race.
When there was a decrease in arousal 6 minutes into the race, you felt more at ease and familiar with the pain and the surroundings, which led to a sudden burst of energy and performance.
Paula, can you please tell us about the first 3 minutes of the race and how it compared to the last 3 minutes of the race?
Well, to begin the race, I felt very overwhelmed by the situation, and I just couldn't concentrate for the majority of the first 4 minutes. I felt unusually exhausted after each stroke and just wanted it to stop. Then for some reason, I got this sudden burst of energy with about 250 metres to go, and it felt like the old me again. It was great, I managed to relax and I became really excited about bringing the team home for the win. If only I could have done that earlier, we might have won.
It sounds like the reversal theory could best describe your arousal levels and how they affected your performance throughout the race. According to the reversal theory, there are two alternate systems which both have optimal arousal levels, as seen in this figure. This suggests how anxiety can instantaneously be converted to excitement and vice versa.
This indicates how both high and low arousal levels can be experienced as pleasant or unpleasant. This explains how you were able to dramatically increase your performance in the last 3 minutes of the race by perceiving your arousal levels to be exciting instead of stressful. The reversal theory also suggests 4 meta motivational pairs, telic and paratelic being the most relevant to you, Paula. This telic state is an arousal avoidance state, which is associated with low levels of arousal. In comparison, the paratelic state is arousal seeking and is associated with high levels of arousal.
Looking at the levels of your left and right prefrontal cortex, the data reinforces our suspicions that the reversal theory best describes your changes in performance. The activity of left prefrontal cortex increased towards the end of the race, with these positive emotions increasing your performance at the latter end of the race. Whereas there was an inverse activity in the right prefrontal cortex, indicating that there was an activity decrease in the processing of negative emotions in the last 3 minutes of the race compared to the first 3 minutes of the race.
This transition between the telic and paratelic state is brought about by contingent factors, frustration and satiation. We believe that your sudden surge of energy came from your transition into the paratelic state, where you are able to perceive the higher arousal levels as pleasant.
The reversal theory may indicate why individuals are less inclined to participate in physical activity every day. The paratelic state has distinct benefits when individuals are beginning a new activity. This is due to the fun-loving and spontaneous nature of this state, whereas a telic state is more serious-minded and planning-orientated, which is therefore beneficial for more advanced athletes. Contingent factors, frustration and satiation allow for individuals to move from the telic to paratelic state and could be manipulated to shift the individual into their highest motivational state.
The meta-motivational paired state of mastery and sympathy allows for a better insight into the motivation of individuals. An individual will be more likely to participate in physical activity for more days of the week if they want to acquire a sense of self-mastery, compared to a state of sympathy which is associated with building relationships. A mastery-orientated individual will want to conquer the activity and therefore have high levels of intrinsic motivation to participate in it on a regular basis. It is important to recognise that an individual's motivation levels for an activity will differ depending on their emotions at the time. Being able to satisfy the needs of particular states or state combinations through exercise may provide powerful reinforcement for continued participation in physical activity.
This graph is a great representation of the inverted U and zone of optional functioning theory.
As these suggest that when anxiety and arousal are either above or below optimal levels, then performances decrease. This is confirmed and added to by the catastrophe theory, which suggests that when this occurs, there is a huge drop-off in performance.
We believe that this is an underlying reason behind the graph. As individuals exercise more than once or twice a week, they have arousal levels outside their optimal range of functioning. This would then lead individuals to have decreased performance, therefore causing a decrease in intrinsic motivation. Therefore, people will be less likely to undertake more than 2 to 3 days per week and are seeing a decrease in performance due to these extra sessions. So believe that to encourage individuals to exercise multiple times per week, we need to adjust the training on those extra days.
How would we do that?
We would ensure that we explain to individuals that these might be low contact, skills-based tasks that would work on important skills involved in the sport. This would mean that there'd be little pressure on them, which means decreased anxiety on the individuals and therefore their performance levels would increase.
Hopefully we increase their intrinsic motivation to exercise, which will encourage them to continue coming back. As exercise also has strong effects on the levels of stress in the body, athletes would also feel less anxious in their everyday lives and also to do with exercise.
So they'll be more likely to exercise because we have addressed the issue of anxiety and hopefully increase their motivation to exercise.
This information, along with the theories and strategies, will allow us to assist you to feel more comfortable in running and attempt you to prevent such an event happening again.
Sounds fabulous.